I made eye contact with this pig for a good 60 seconds, and it was incredibly moving. And unfortunately, moments after making eye contact with Terry, the truck that Terry was on, entered the slaughterhouse, and the doors closed, and I never heard from Terry again. I never saw Terry again. Hey everybody, how we doing? How we doing, Luxembourg? Thank you all for being here. So when I say go, you say vegan. Go. Vegan. Go. Vegan. There we go, guys. That's why we're all here. We are here to create a vegan world. That is why we came to Luxembourg. That's why I came to Luxembourg from America, which is obviously where I am from. And so I want you all to just for a moment imagine yourself as this pig who I named Terry. So I interacted with Terry about 7 years ago. I was living in Los Angeles, and I was at a pig vigil with a group, Los Angeles Animal Save, and we were outside of a slaughterhouse when a truck pulled up with dozens of pigs. And now this pig, Terry, had never seen the light of day. And then one day they were pushed onto a truck, and then they saw the light of day on their way to the slaughterhouse from the middle of the United States all the way to a slaughterhouse in Los Angeles called Farmer John, which is now closed, by the way. And so I made eye contact with this pig for a good 60 seconds. And it was incredibly moving. And unfortunately, moments after making eye contact with Terry, the truck that Terry was on, entered the slaughterhouse, and the doors closed, and I never heard from Terry again. I never saw Terry again. And the reason is because he was slaughtered and eventually became food. So unfortunately, it is too late for Terry. But fortunately, I recorded this video of him seriously making eye contact with me for 60 seconds, unmoved. It was incredibly powerful. And so I uploaded this video to Twitter. And fortunately, many people have seen it. 189,000 times this video has been viewed. And so while it is too late for Terry, it is not too late for the millions of other animals out there that we can inspire with Terry's story. So that brings me to another story that I want to talk about. So it was actually about 5 years ago. I was on a cruise ship from New York to Southampton, England. And I was traveling with my friend, and he was afraid to fly. So that was what we did. So we went by boat. And so one of the first days I was there, I went to the buffet. And I was walking around the buffet looking for the vegan food. And I came across this chef named Jetmark. He's from the Philippines. And I said, hey, chef, what kind of vegan food do you have? And he actually said, oh, wow, the sweater that you're wearing, it's got a name of this organization. And I actually saw a video that organization posted, and I went vegetarian as a result. And I looked down, and there was the name of the organization I was working for at the time. And I was running their social media. So he actually went vegetarian because of the video that I posted for the organization I was working for at the time. And so I think it's really important to remember that the power of social media is incredible. Because what we can do is when we're posting videos like the video of Terry, you are going to create new vegans and vegetarians and people moving towards that like Jetmark. So content that I've posted to social media has been seen over 1 billion times in my decade of doing animal advocacy on social media. And so I want to mention that the potential of social media is truly boundless. So the massive reach I've had is not a result of me having a PhD in social media science, which I certainly don't. I am not a magician, and I don't pay to run ads. I am a regular human being who looked at what was working on social media and what wasn't, and tweaked my approach over time. And so why is social media important? It's because it's the public square where everybody is, and therefore we need to reach people where they are. And also, even if you don't love social media advocacy in itself, it is also a really great place to highlight the work that you're already doing on the ground, in the streets, for animals. So what are the benefits of using social media? Well, for one, education and outreach. So you are inspiring people. You are teaching people the ways in which animals are being abused. And while all of us in this room and watching online are very well aware of the cruelty going on to animals behind the closed doors of factory farms, slaughterhouses, and so many other places, the vast majority of the public does not know, and that is where we come in. So inspiring change, building your brand, launching a business, social media is the place you want to be. And of course, campaigning. So many of you engage in, very, very important campaigns on behalf of animals. And for that reason, social media is a really great place to be. And then, of course, networking. So I hope that all of you at this conference and in the future when you're meeting other great vegan activists, you're using social media to keep that connection alive. So let's think about the two most important metrics to pay attention to. It's growth and its reach. And these are very simple. Essentially, growth is the number of followers that you are attaining, and reach is how many people are seeing your content. And more growth equals more reach equals more growth, and it means more engagement. So how many people are engaging with your posts? And most importantly, as you increase these numbers, as you increase your growth, as you increase your reach, you are increasing your impact for animals. So let's talk about effective strategy in the age of social media. So first of all, you want to figure out what is your niche. So there is no easy answer to this. Essentially, you have to dig deep and figure out where your skills overlap with your interests. So you also want to set goals for yourself for engagement and for growth, but you also want to manage your expectations. Because I see a lot of people who are like, I'm going to be an Instagram influencer, and they get on there, they spend a lot of time for 3 weeks, and they don't get that much traction, and they give up. But it is important to be mindful of the fact that it is a slow build that is going to happen over a long course of time. So you have to have patience. And also remember that it's you versus the algorithm. And what I mean by this is that social media, long gone are the days when social media platforms just put whatever you posted to the top of the news feeds of people who follow you. Now it is incredibly curated based on what these social media platforms want you to see. They think you want to see. So you need basically as much engagement as possible on your posts, because as you get more engagement, so more likes, comments, and shares, that means more people are going to see this content in their news feeds. And so ways to do this: by using emotion and framing your content and your captions in a way that is going to get as much engagement as humanly possible. So you also want to put yourself in your audience's shoes. Remember that you are not your audience, and post consistently. So don't just post twice this week, 10 times next week, and then nothing for the next month. Post in a fairly consistent way. A really nice way of accomplishing this is actually by scheduling posts in advance using a platform like Buffer. And there are many other ones out there. They're free, they're cheap, they're really worth your time. And remember that the small stuff matters. So fill out your bio. Use the link that they provide you. Use a profile photo that is actually of you. Do the little things, and that is going to add up to a more effective strategy for the animals on social media. And remember that effective social media advocacy isn't just one-and-done posting. It really requires constant engagement and constant dialogue and constant monitoring. So let's talk about effective communication in the age of social media. So you want to work to empower your audience, not just depress them. And again, everybody in this room, everybody watching this at home, understands the cruelty that humans inflict on animals on a regular basis, every second of every day. But if we were all doom and gloom 24/7 on social media, that would be really problematic for our opportunity to inspire people. You need to blend that sad stuff with happier stuff, with very interesting educational content and so on. And don't be a jerk. When is the last time you saw someone being a jerk and you're like, I want to be like that person? So when you are engaging on social media and you come across somebody who is pushing your buttons, don't just immediately go into outrage mode. Take a deep breath and cool down before replying. Don't make others feel judged. So what we have to remember as effective vegan advocates is that we were on a similar journey to the people that we are trying to reach. We were on that journey, months, years, maybe decades ago, but we were on that journey, and we need to remember that when we are engaging. And I really recommend using the 3 R's. So it's be relatable, be reasonable, and be rational. So if others can't relate to you, it is going to be hard for you to inspire and influence them. Be reasonable. So understand most of your audience probably isn't going vegan overnight. Honestly, if you just want to slowly chip away at the walls that people have up, that is a fantastic goal. Most people don't go vegan from one thing. It's often many things that happen over the course of months, years, or even decades. And be rational. So you always want to put yourself in your audience's shoes. So I get asked a lot how to get more followers. Well, there is numerous answers to that, and one of the ways that we can all get more followers on social media, and I also want to say that it's important to get more followers because that means more opportunities for you to influence people. Whether you're influencing vegans to be more active or to be better activists, or you're influencing non-vegans to become vegan. Whatever you're doing, the more people the bigger your audience, the more impact you're going to have for animals. So, first of all, this seems so straightforward, but post good content. People want to follow accounts that post good, interesting content. So you really need to ask yourself this question every time you go to post. Is my audience actually going to be interested in seeing this? Shares and retweets. So this is a really fantastic way for your posts to go into the news feeds of others, is through shares. So that's one reason I really love Facebook and Twitter especially, because the share function is an integral part of the platform. So when somebody who follows me, they see my post, they share it, then it goes into the news feeds of others. External engagement. So this is entering into the comment section and liking of posts from other people to draw attention to your profile, but then also regularly engaging internally as well. So keeping your audience interested. So liking and replying to the comments that people who are leaving on your posts. And also, of course, the little things matter. All of the little things that we're talking about throughout this presentation, if you implement at least some of them, if you aren't already, I guarantee you will start having more success on social media in your efforts for animals. So let's talk about content tips. So not all of your content needs to be original. So you can coordinate with others to share their content, whether it's animal sanctuaries, undercover investigators, photographers, other animal protection organizations and groups. There is a plethora of content that already exists, so you don't necessarily need to go conduct your own undercover investigation. And if that's what you want to do, go for it. But you don't necessarily have to when there's already so much great content out there that you can get out there to the general public. So I actually really recommend, this is especially when it comes to animal-related footage, short footage that isn't highly produced and isn't nicely polished. The benefit of this is that it's a lot easier to post this stuff. It's a lot easier to find this content and chop it up in a way that works for your social media. I find that, honestly, just a 5 or 10-second clip of a single animal doing one thing is going to be more impactful than splicing together some big, long story. So you also want to say as much as you can in as few words as humanly possible. So people have very short attention spans on social media, and you have to remember that this isn't a university lecture on social media. As much as I would love to scream from the mountaintops, a whole novel about why everybody should go vegan, social media is about these quick little punches. And I've got some specific notes for animal abuse-related content here. So you want to prioritize content that induces emotions and pulls on the heartstrings, and through sorrow and through sadness, more than just blood and gore. The animals have it so bad that we don't need to show the worst of the worst of the worst of the content to make a really big impact. And I would argue that even posting stuff that isn't the worst of the worst might actually be more impactful because people are less likely to turn away in disgust and in horror. And you also want to focus on one specific type of cruelty at a time. So you basically want to make your audience be able to feel something. You want them to visualize this kind of cruelty, whether it's beak trimming, castration without painkillers, teeth clipping, tail docking. These are things that a person can kind of visualize how that would feel. And by focusing on that one narrow area rather than some broad statement about animal suffering is actually going to do a lot more to influence people. And you also want to think of creative ways to express frustration with some of the worst practices of factory farming that are really difficult to get across. Things like growing incredibly rapidly, so much so that the legs can't keep up with the weight of the bodies. Think about long-term confinement. Think about extreme boredom, overcrowding. These are things that are sort of hard to get across, but it's very important to talk about because these are just some of the ways that these animals suffer in the worst ways. And so we owe it to the animals to try and be creative with our approach. So when it comes to content, I highly recommend you organize your content. So Google Drive is your friend. I highly recommend you take all of the content that you have, whether it's you in animal sanctuaries, you undercover, whatever it is, and upload it to Google Drive, organize it. This is going to be really impactful and helpful for you because you can access that content anywhere in the world. You can easily share with others, and you can easily keep your content organized rather than just having 10 or 100,000 photos and videos on your phone. So what platforms should you focus on, and how much time should you spend on social media? Well, there is no easy answer, okay? It is different for everyone. So it's really based on what makes sense for your niche. I hate that word. So you essentially want to figure out what the value you find in it, the amount of resources at your disposal, because some of us we could have multiple employees, and maybe some of us have 5 hours a week to do social media. The range is huge, so you want to think about the amount of resources you have at your disposal, and then, of course, your level of comfortability. So what actions to actually take on social media? For one, you can share posts from others, so you don't necessarily have to create brand new content. So these are some tweets of mine that people saw in their Twitter feed, and they liked, and they retweeted me. So this is an action that you can take as well when you see other people posting content that you like and you support and you want others to see. Post your origin story. So talk about how you came to be the activist you are today. I guarantee you people care about this. People are your friends on social media for a reason. They want to hear these things, and it can really inspire people. Post about the great plant-based food that you're eating. Use humor from time to time. Again, the world's a deep, dark place for animals, but at the same time, we can each use humor to try and reach out to people and reach people in a different way. And of course, the most important thing that we all do is to expose the cruelty going on behind the closed doors of these factory farms, slaughterhouses, and so many places in which animals suffer. Talk about your relationships with animals and how animals have had an impact on you. This is Sunshine, a pig that I met at Rosie's Animal Sanctuary in Maryland in the eastern United States, and it was a very enlightening experience. I met Sunshine, and she was wonderful. She fell off of a truck on the way to a slaughterhouse and was fortunately rescued and is now going to live out her life in a fantastic way in harmony on Rosie's Farm Sanctuary. So give it up for Sunshine and Rosie's. So talking about animals' impact on you is really important as well. Post a blend of different kinds of posts. So don't always just do the same thing all the time. So think about the different types of posts: videos, photos, links, text-only posts, polls, but then also the types of content, whether it's happy content, sad, educational, funny. Post a blend so you're always keeping your audience guessing as to what's coming next. And this might seem counterintuitive, but have outside interests. It's really important if you want to influence people that they look at you and they think, I can kind of relate to this person. If you are nothing but animal rights 24/7, it is going to be more difficult for people to basically be influenced by you, the general public at least. Again, it's okay to be animal rights 24/7, but as far as your presence on social media, I think it's more beneficial to actually show that you have outside interests as well. Shine a light on personal achievements. The reason that this is important is because it gives you more credibility. And there are not enough of us activists out there who are doing this important work. So we need everything in our power to make us as effective as possible, including shining a light on personal achievements, even if we are a bit modest or humble. And again, don't be overly accusatory. I really find this to just be a really poor use of your efforts on social media if you're just shaming. I think you have a lot more potential to help animals if you are not so overly accusatory all the time. And again, as much as I would love to just constantly write sentences and paragraphs and novels about the ways in which animals are being abused and why we need to make a difference for them, less is sometimes more. It is usually more. So this tweet was literally a 5-second video of a dog with a piglet, and the tweet is 7 words long and 1 emoji, and it was seen over 1 million times. And so we've got to remember that long captions are okay from time to time, but in general, I really recommend using the concept of less is more. When in doubt, post about piglets. People love piglets, people love cute animals, and throwing those in there from time to time is a really nice way to connect with your audience. When it comes to profile photos, these were taken before I grew my hair out, so I essentially would really recommend something a little bit more on the professional side for Twitter and for LinkedIn, something that your friends and family would appreciate for Facebook, and for Instagram and TikTok can go a little bit artsy or edgy. And avoid the vegan bubble. So as much as I would love for all of, just to be flooded with vegan animal rights content 24/7, unfortunately, that is not reality. That is not how the real world operates. And so us, to maintain our effectiveness as advocates, we need to have our, at least one foot in the door of reality and understanding how the general public operates and what they're interested in, what they're engaging with. So kind of go out of your way to avoid the vegan bubble where your entire newsfeed is just flooded with animal rights content nonstop. And don't put all of your vegan just eggs into one basket. What I mean by this is essentially if you focus all of your effort on one social media platform and that social media platform goes belly up or falls out of favor with the general public, you are screwed because you spent all of that time, all of those resources building up your presence on that one profile. So I recommend spreading it out over multiple platforms. I mean, when is the last time anybody heard from Tom from MySpace? So when it comes to dealing with trolls and endless debates, don't do it. It is just not a great use of your time. On occasion, yes, it's fine, go for it. But as a general rule, it is not worth your time and effort. In the amount of time that it would take to try and convince somebody to change their opinion, you could have reached dozens or hundreds of people who have an open heart, an open mind. And it's also so important to remember that a lot of these trolls don't even believe the stuff that they're saying. They are literally just trying to get under your skin. So here are some other things to take into consideration on your social media animal advocacy journey. So for one, post natively to each platform. There are lots of tools out there to make it easy to post to a lot of platforms automatically, but I highly recommend doing it individually if you can, if you have the resources, because you're going to tailor it a little bit differently for each platform. Post late morning or early afternoon. That is the time that I find to be best based on the time zone of where most of your followers are. If you have a truly international audience across the world, then this is going to be hard to figure out. But if most of your followers are in Western Europe or in the Eastern US or something, then it's going to be easier for you to figure out. I have an 80-20 rule for captions. So about 80% of my captions, I like to keep concise, short, sweet. And about 20% of my captions, I like to make longer form. What you might find this to be a different ratio for what works with your audience, but at least be mindful of this concept as you are entering into social media animal advocacy space. And make posts emotional. I mean, I think I've used the word emotional like 7 times this presentation, and it's important because we need to really get people to feel something. We need our audience to feel something in order to change. Include emojis. So I really recommend using 1 to 3 emojis. Emojis are the language of the internet, but don't overdo it. So don't just post, a flood of 45 emojis at the end of your tweet or at the end of your post. Like, people aren't going to go through that, like, oh, they use that emoji, oh, they use that emoji. Like, that's not going to happen. So I really recommend just doing maybe 1 to 3 per post. Use social media to network. So networking is a really vital way of you being the best, most influential, effective advocate that you can be. So use social media to do that. When you add new Facebook friends, add them into lists. It's much easier to find them based on these different, ways in which you organize them. Remember that most users on social media are actually observers. Literally, the majority of people on social media are not liking, they're not commenting, they're not sharing. They are merely observing. So when you're writing something, when you're posting something, there are a lot of people who you will never hear from, but they are being influenced by you one way or another. So that's another reason it's important not to be a jerk, because there's a lot of people who are going to see that and be influenced by that, and they're not going to say, hey, I didn't like it when you posted that. They're just going to say, wow, that vegan guy, he was a jerk. I'm not going to be like that. And so you have to remember that, but also make your accounts public. So some of you may have good reason to keep your accounts private, and I don't want to overstep and say, don't have them be private. But if possible, I highly recommend that your accounts are public. This is how you're going to reach more and more people. You could potentially reach dozens or hundreds of your friends to hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people in the general public. Take advantage of trends. So trends are constantly changing on social media, constantly. So it's really important for you to adjust to the changing landscape. Pin valuable posts to the top of your profile. This is a fairly new feature. The last year or two, most of the platforms now allow you to pin the most important posts, which is a great feature. Tag relevant accounts when you are posting something. So if you're posting something that you teamed up with a collaborator with, make sure you tag them so they're notified. It's also the polite thing to do. Maybe they'll be more likely to share it themselves, which would give you amplified reach. And also mute and hide followers instead of unfriending or unfollowing them. This is a way you're not burning bridges, and you can also still influence them. When sharing others' posts, I highly recommend that you write a caption in your own words, because somebody, let's say Susie sees my tweet and she retweets me, and my tweet goes into the news feeds of people who follow her. Well, that is effective to a certain degree, but if she were to retweet me and say, wow, this tweet from John Oberg is really important, really powerful, I feel really emotional after seeing what this pig endured, then people are going to be like, oh, wow, I really care what Susie says. Because they don't know me, but they know Susie, and so they probably care what Susie has to say. So when you are sharing others' content, add your own 2 cents. When you invite people to Facebook events, invite in waves, starting with the people most likely to attend. Have an experimental mindset. So much about social media animal advocacy is throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks. If there was one simple answer to everything social media, then it would look like a totally different landscape. But it is constantly changing. There's a lot of inconsistency. There's a lot of frustration at times. And for these reasons, you have to be really experimental. Video content generally is best, especially Reels in today's world, Reels and TikTok-like style video. Ads and boosting posts only worth it if these 2 qualifications occur. 1, organic engagement is extremely unlikely to occur, so people probably aren't going to like it on its own because it isn't that interesting. And then also, it's an extremely important post for you. But generally, I really don't think you have to do much to boost posts. So I mentioned earlier that in my decade of doing this, my content's been seen over 1 billion times. Well, that is all for free. I did not pay for a single one of those posts. And again, I'm not anybody that special. And so my mom would disagree, but I don't think I'm that special. And so it's really important for us to remember that boosting isn't necessary because we have the tools at our fingertips, and people care about animals. People love animals, and so we aren't out there selling soda. We are selling a message for compassion for animals, which is something that everybody can get behind. Also, experiment with new features. So social media platforms are always introducing new features, so it's important for us to experiment regularly. Get on new platforms right away when they come into existence. You don't have to spend that much time on them, but at least claim your spot and at least claim your username. And don't like your own posts, okay? We all know you like your post, otherwise you wouldn't have posted it in the first place. So I have 2 mini assignments for all of you to do after this conference. And the first one is to spend an hour looking at how other successful animal protection organizations and animal advocates are using social media and have used social media historically, and look at what they have been doing, what they haven't been doing, what has been working for them, what hasn't been working for them. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. Like we don't live in this as many of the problems that social media can provide to people, the one thing is you can see how others are doing pretty easily. So if there's another Instagram influencer that you like and you kind of want to build your model after, look at which posts of theirs get more engagement, which seems to be more impactful. Again, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. The second assignment I have for all of you is to spend 30 minutes looking at your own past social media presence, and you should see what has historically worked for you and what hasn't. This is important because your audience is unique to you, so you're going to see what has worked for you and what hasn't. I also want to offer you all a 25% discount on the 3 courses that I created for social media. I created a course on Instagram, one on Twitter, and one general social media course. You can use code IARC2023. You can also take a picture of that QR code to easily go to advocacycollab.com where these courses are housed, and you can take 25% off. And I want you to remember that you are only going to see the tip of the iceberg in terms of the impact that you are making for animals. So you are going to influence people, and I guarantee you each one of you already has reached or influenced dozens, hundreds, probably thousands of people that you will probably never know. But I want you to be assured that you are making a difference and that you have made a difference. So I am so confident that animal abuse is not going to survive the era of social media, And in the future, we have a cruelty-free world. We have a vegan world at our fingertips, but the speed of which that day arrives is entirely dependent on the hard work that you and I and the people watching online are willing to do. How willing are we to roll up our sleeves and get to this action? Because it is important for us to try and create a world of people like Jetmark who learn what's going on to animals behind the closed doors of factory farms and slaughterhouses and want to make a difference. So I'm going to leave you with this quote from the late, great Maya Angelou. As I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And it's so vital that for us as animal advocates who use social media, we are making people feel something, because getting them to feel something is going to get them to make change for animals. Thank you.